Okay, welcome back. This is Roger Royce, host of the 10,000 Startups podcast. And today's such a big topic that I'm going to go ahead and live stream this to Facebook, as well as record it and post it on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. And the topic is pig butchery. And it's not what you think. It's not what it sounds like. And we have Erin West here, who is a prosecutor with the REACT Task Force in Santa Clara County, the Office of the District Attorney. And she's an expert in cybercrime and crypto crime. And she's here to talk to us about something that's a way bigger problem than you might think. And that is this phenomenon called pig butchering. So, Erin, thanks for being here. And let's kind of kick it off. I'll let you tell folks, what do I mean when I say pig butchering? What is that?
Well, pig butchering is the greatest threat to our nation that you probably have not heard of. It is a combination romance scam / investment scheme that is hitting tens of thousands of Americans. The way it works is, and your listeners will probably have experienced this, you get a text on your phone that seems to be sent to a wrong number, or someone friends you on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and then a conversation starts. And what this is a long con designed to create a trusted relationship between the scammer and you. They will be exactly the relationship that you've always wanted. And you will feel like you have fallen in love with this person and you are going to end up with this person. And at the same time, they are showing you a really enviable lifestyle. They're showing that they live in a nice place and have money and nice cars. And then they will tell you that they made that money by investing in cryptocurrency and they can teach you how.
Okay. It sounds funny when you describe it, but it's not funny, is it? I mean, it looks real. These people are super good at this. So where would this come up? The text, we've all gotten those text messages. Like I get about 10 a day, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But where else? I think it's mostly social media, right?
Yeah, it's definitely social media, and they're just getting more and more creative. They might pop up in a group you're in that's like a fine foods group or a travel group or something like that, and just ask you a question, and then before you know it, they drop their picture and say, "Oh, I'm Jessica. I hope I'm not bothering you." And what I'm here to tell you is that even if it doesn't seem like this would work, it is working. And tens of thousands of Americans and worldwide are getting hit with this. And the difference about pig butchering from any other scam that we're familiar with is pig butchering doesn't stop until the scammer has taken every cent from the victim. Our victims are led to believe that their money is well invested and that they're doubling their money. And they see this beautiful dashboard that shows them that their money's increased in value. And so they keep getting coerced into putting more and more in there.
And of course, the dashboard is fake, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The money is long gone, and the dashboard is fake, but our victims don't know that. And so they get talked into liquidating their 401ks, liquidating their children's college accounts, really putting every last penny they have into this. And the result is the most devastated group of victims I've ever come into contact with in 26 years of being a prosecutor.
Yeah, I'll bet. Now, is it all social media? Is one worse than the other? Because of just my experiences, I get odd sort of requests all across Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. And I was mentioning earlier, even Goodreads, I got a weird thing the other day. I guess it's all of them, huh?
Yeah, it sure was disappointing to hear that note about Goodreads because, we want to hope that there's at least one trusted platform where we're not being hit by scammers. But the fact is they're using everything. And I will say that the most prevalent of them are the dating apps, LinkedIn, and the meta platforms, Instagram and Facebook. And so what I tell people these days is we just have to assume that everything is a scam until we see otherwise. Just that we are really being targeted in a major way, and the results are astronomical. The amount of money leaving our country is, Some there's varying reports. Some will put it at 30 billion, some will put it at 75 billion, but it's a substantial amount of wealth leaving our country and going abroad, never to be seen again.
Is that an annual number?
It depends. There's just what's interesting about this is there's no good data set on this.
Yeah.
And the reason why there's no good data set is because a lot of our victims are really too embarrassed to come forward. And I understand that. There's a stigma that hits this, but I would encourage them to report at least to ic3.gov. That's the FBI portal. And that will help us to understand and at least put our arms around how big this problem is so that our federal government can put adequate resources on it.
Yeah, let's say that again, ic3.gov. So there is a place somebody can go if they're a victim of this scam. And will they follow up? Will they take action?
Well, I am one to always try to set reasonable expectations for victims, because what I'm seeing is a group of really disenfranchised victims who don't think they're getting any help. And so let me tell you, what we tell victims is they need to report to their local police department. And the reason why is local police need to understand that this is a problem in their own neighborhood. Because what we're seeing is this is happening everywhere. And I regularly teach at bigger groups, and I teach at like chiefs of police meetings, and I'll say, how many think you have cryptocurrency issues in your jurisdiction? And nobody raises their hand. And I'm like, well, you do, because they're all coming to me, because they are going to you and not getting help. And so we have a big knowledge gap in the United States in local, state, and federal ability to really do much with crypto cases. So what I tell victims is report to your local agency. If they don't understand what this is, then you have to be your own advocate, and you have to say, this is a financial crime and I want to talk to a financial crimes detective. Then they need to report to the federal government as well. They need to report to ic3.gov.
Okay.
Now with the IC3, they're not likely to hear anything back. And that's because it's a fire hose of victims. And ideally, our federal government is looking at making bigger cases than just their individual case.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me, talk about fake news. This is the fakest of news. What are the social media platforms doing about it? Will they step in and, I guess, suspend people or flag them, or can you report it to Facebook and LinkedIn, etc.?
What I will say is that I've been advocating for better work from our social media partners for over 2 years. And what I will say is that there is a gradual upward slope in their ability to be helpful. But I also will say that there is a lot of room for improvement. When I think of the pig and I think about places where you could make a big disruption, social media is number one. That's where these scammers are getting access to our victims. And so we've got to figure out a better way to stop them from getting access to our people. Because once they get access, that's when they start using their psychological techniques, and it makes it really difficult for anyone to try to interrupt that scam from happening.
Yeah, so I think maybe there's a real element of just personal, maybe education involved here, and just the individual being able to recognize this. And let me describe a pattern to you that I've noticed. First of all, I'm a lawyer, so I don't believe anything anyone says, especially on social media. But there's this pattern I've noticed. First, it'll be someone who I don't know and have never met, comes from out of nowhere and likes a bunch of my posts, no matter how ridiculous they are, on a wide variety, all my public posts. And then I get a friend request, and then I get a message, and it always starts out with what you just said. Gee, I hope I'm not bothering you. I hope you don't mind. Like, who talks like that? I hope you don't mind. And once in a while, I'll be curious enough to say, okay, click on a profile and see who this is. It's always a young, attractive woman who's got a long history on Facebook. So it's not like they just started an account yesterday,
right?
But a very impressive resume. I'm a VC, with
Mhm.
Sequoia or somebody,
Yes.
or I'm money,
Yes.
and I'm this,
Yes.
and I'm that, and we can do business together. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, something's wrong with this picture.
Right?
So that's kind of my thing. Is there anything else any other clues a person might have?
Yeah. So I love you sharing your story because I think that is how it is appearing to a lot of people. And so and I also thank you for having me on your podcast because I love an opportunity to talk to people that I might not have had the opportunity to talk to about this. It'll show up like that. It can show up what I've seen frequently is they will click they will reach out to you and they will make some comment about where you live, and then they'll say like I'm moving to that area, would you be able to share some information about that area with me? They're
Mhm.
just looking for some opportunity to just begin the conversation, and then they're hoping that they can win you over with their attractive picture and their kind words. And unfortunately, it works, and it works it to the tune of billions and billions of dollars.
Okay, so let's say that I'm gullible enough that I fall for it and say, yeah, okay, we'll be friends or we'll link. How are they going to get money out of me? What does that happen? What does
Yeah,
the offer look like?
yeah. Let me walk you through that. So first, I want to really clarify that the enemy is skilled. The enemy is armed with psychological technique that they know how to lure people in. They are using the types of techniques that are used in cults and used in other areas where they are trying to get people to do things that are out of their comfort zone. So over this time, it's a long con. They'll spend 90 days with you, getting to know you and really providing a girlfriend experience or a boyfriend experience that is top notch in terms of like knowing all about you, and then what they do is they've shown you that they are wealthy, and so you trust them, you think you're going to end up with them, and you can see that they are wealthy from doing this, and they'll say, you know what, my uncle taught me, and which is another like red flag. There's always an uncle or an aunt taught me, and this uncle could teach you. And so then they get our victims to take whatever is a small amount to them. Could be $500, could be $5,000. And why don't you just do a try the investment? And so they will get our victims to move that $5,000 out of their bank account into a legitimate cryptocurrency exchange like Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken. And once it's in that exchange, they will teach them how to turn it from US dollars into Tether or USDT. It's a stable coin, it's a cryptocurrency that is pegged to the US dollar. So if you have $5,000, now you have 5,000 Tether. Then they will explain that now you need to invest it in this very special portal that my uncle knows how to work. And once you put it in that portal, you're going to see immense gains. So they teach our victims how to move their crypto now out of the wallet that they control into a wallet that the scammer controls. And from there, it goes down the blockchain and it's gone. It's gone into the hands of scammers. But our victims are shown a dashboard that says, Erin West, you now have 5,000 Tether. And then in a day, it'll be 6,800. It'll go to 7,500. And before the week's out, now they have 10,000. So they think, oh, wow, this is legit. And then that's when our scammers double down on them and they'll say, there's a really good opportunity, but you have to put in more money. So I think if you put in 150,000 this week, you'll be able to get these extra returns. And often our victims, they'll say, well, gosh, I wasn't thinking of putting that much money in. And they'll say, oh, well, you know what? How about if I put in, how much do you think you could put in? Because I'll put in the other 50,000 because we're in this together. And so they think, gosh, this person I trust is putting their money in it too, which is like not happening at all. It's all fictitious. So this must be legit. And so that's when they start getting the bigger money out of them. And then it's a real FOMO situation of our victims think, wow, we're making tons of money and I don't want to miss out on any of this. So let me just put as much money as I have into this. And that's when they end up bankrupt. Well, so all their money's in it. And so then they'll say, well, I'd like to take some out. And that's when the scammer will say, oh, well, you have to pay taxes on that now. And they'll say, oh, okay, we'll take it out of my gains. And they'll say, no, it has to be new money. That's when our victims are then getting a home equity line on their house. They are doing a payday loan. They are doing crazy stunts because they think they're going to be able to turn this right around. And then that's when the bottom falls out and they realize this whole thing was a scam. The person that led them there was a scammer, and they are distraught.
Yeah. Now, let me ask, is there a particular place that these scams generally originate from? Or are they just all over the world?
Yeah, I think that frequently when we think of scams like this, we think of like Nigeria or an Indian call center, but this is something different. This is originating with Chinese organized crime syndicates, and it's headquartered in Southeast Asia. These bad actors have set up former casino towers that they have converted, and they've actually built compounds. So the casino towers are primarily in Cambodia. These compounds are primarily in Myanmar, although there are some in Laos, some in the Philippines, some all around. And what they're doing is, this is a very human, labor-intensive task. So to fill that, they've put up fake job search portals where people are going there and thinking they're getting a job in graphic design or travel or something, going through a job application process, getting hired, flying to Bangkok for this job. Their passports are seized, they are put in buses, and they are locked down in these compounds, and they are forced to work 17 hours a day, and they're getting beaten if they don't make their quotas. So it's a true world crisis when you think of the amount of money and the destruction that is happening to the countries that are being hit with the financial piece. And then inside Southeast Asia, the UN estimates that 250,000 people are being held in captivity, being forced to do this dirty work.
My God, 250,000. So it's a huge human trafficking problem here. More than that, it's, I don't know what you'd call it. It's slavery, isn't it?
It is. It's slavery. And to think that, how frequently we will get a text like that and we'll think, oh, I'm going to mess with this scammer. Well, the fact is you're messing with someone who may have been hit with an electric baton yesterday. Like that's who's sitting on the other end of the phone trying to make a connection so that they don't get beaten. It's a horrific tale on both sides, and both sides are committing suicide. We're seeing suicides on both sides of this, and the only winners are the massive are these criminals who are taking in the most amount of money we've ever seen transferred in any kind of scam in world history.
Yeah. Now your group, the REACT task force, I'm gathering you're in Santa Clara County and you're focused more on local residents who might fall prey. Is that right?
That's right. The REACT task force is it works with the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office. It's a group of local detectives. And we were able to early on figure out a means to recover some of the lost funds for our local victims. And then we realized that that there was a knowledge gap, and so we wanted to share what we knew. So we found other local practitioners across the country. We joined up and we started this thing called the Crypto Coalition. And now we're up to over 1,800 members of active law enforcement who are focusing on crypto cases, where we can share information, share best practices, and we do monthly webinars to really build skills in this emerging area.
Gotcha. Are there international groups as well? Because it seems to me like it has to be shut down at source.
Yeah. So that I felt the same way. After I felt like while we were making some recoveries, it was almost like I likened it to throwing eggs at a skyscraper. Like we really weren't doing that much damage. And so we needed to look at this in a holistic way. And so I started looking at the life cycle from the from the social media to banking to law enforcement, all the way up to an international level, to the crypto exchanges that were part of this, to NGOs on the ground floor in Southeast Asia giving me information, to victim services. And what needed to happen is all of these people needed to be brought together in the same group. So that's why I created something called Operation Shamrock. And so it's an amazing group of people that are split into working groups that are actually getting amazing things done. And it's a place for workers, not lurkers. It's a place to get in there, roll up your sleeves, and actually start figuring out what you can do better in your space to help victims today.
Got you. Okay, and I know we only got a couple minutes left, so I do want to ask you about something else that I know you're very knowledgeable in, and that's this. If that's not enough to worry about, tell me about SIM swapping.
I sure will. SIM swapping is a horrific thing that can happen to you. The good news about SIM swapping is it's generally pretty targeted to people who have announced themselves as people who hold cryptocurrency. And what happens is, let's imagine I'm the SIM swapper and you have been saying crypto, crypto, crypto on your Twitter, on your X. And so I've targeted you. I work with a team of people who I probably don't know in real life. They are other hackers like me. And we've probably found someone who works at one of the telcos that we can bribe to change your traffic. So you're going to go to bed on a Friday night. We're going to call our hookup at AT&T, and we're going to say, I want you to change the traffic from Roger's phone to the device that I'm holding. That's the SIM swap. There's no physical SIM swap, but now what was going to your phone is now going to a phone I'm holding. And then my partner and I are going to go to Gmail, and we're going to go to rogerroyce@gmail.com, and we're going to do forgot password. And then Google is going to send a code to what it thinks is your phone, but actually it's the device I'm holding. I'm going to put that code into Gmail, and now I'm going to take over Gmail, change the password, and lock you out. And from there, I'm going to systematically go through all your accounts and look for where you hold your money. And crypto is really the target, because while you're asleep, we can transfer all of that out of your account and move it to places where you may not be able to ever recover it. Yeah. So that's how that works. And what was happening and what continues to happen is people are literally waking up with no phone service and no access to any of their funds. And in some cases, they can't access their social media or lots of accounts within their control. So it really is a message to be careful with your two-factor authentication, because you want to make sure that you are using
an authenticator, right?
Yeah, an authenticator. Yeah, you don't want it connected to your phone.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Erin. I see we're kind of running out of time. That's a lot in a short period of time. I think that is really useful. A lot of good tips there, a lot of things for people to look out for, and cautions that they can take, so at least they don't become the next victim. Again, this is Roger Royce with 10,000 Startups. We've been talking with Erin West, who is from the Santa Clara District Attorney's Office, on pig butchering and other internet scams. Thanks again, Erin. And this is Roger. We'll see you next time.